Welcome all of you to the Knesset Israel Sanctuary, both here in person in our pews and also at home, live stream. Welcome everyone, good Shabbos. I want to invite you to take a breath and let this week kind of slough off your shoulders. Let it wash off you like water. Feel the way that it frees you. Feel the way that it makes you lighter. With it, slide off the burdens of your week, the things that you've been carrying so heavy in your heart and your head. And here we are at the shores of this sacred day, ready finally to approach the extra soul that awaits us all week long, that awaits that moment of the sun's descent on Friday night, so that we might enter into this sacred, this rarefied, this special kind of time. Let us begin by calling that day, this day, something of beauty. Ma Yafeh Hayom can be found on page 10.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom, Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom.
We continue to welcome Shabbat with the lighting of Shabbat candles and with the opening blessings of the Sabbath day. And it's my pleasure to call forward Mark and Lynn Champagne to help us with that. We are on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Kiddush. A full cup of wine or grape juice is a symbol of joy, and this day of Shabbat each and every week is a source of joy for us and for all the Jewish people. We sing together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kadshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. And Mark, if you would be so kind as to remove the challah cover and to lead us in mo. Yeah, that's fine. Eloheinu melech haolam ha'melech min haaretz yavon. So Mark and Lynn, I'm going to invite you first to have a little challah. And then in a moment, we're going to take a minute to welcome one another. We're going to welcome Shabbat formally in a lot of different ways in this service, but we also take a moment to welcome one another. And I'm going to invite you to pass, to hand this off to somebody who can partake of it and then pass it off to somebody else if you feel comfortable doing so. I'm gonna invite you to stand up and greet somebody who you haven't met before, even cross the aisle if necessary, and then we'll join back together in a few moments. Excuse me. Shabbat shalom. So, friends, we're going to join back together. And together we are going to welcome Shabbat as if Shabbat was a person in our midst, or at least someone that's going to be in our midst. Shabbat is personified as a queen or as a bride. And I'm going to invite you to turn to page 20. We are going to sing with the choir verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And of course, on our final verse, we rise and turn to the door, which Mike will have opened at that point, and we'll welcome the Sabbath bride into our space, our community, our holy kehillah. Page 20. אחד
Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamol v'zachol b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el ham-yuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki himekor habaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'makshevat tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki vareku mi ori, uri shir daberi, kavod Adonai alayik nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
We turn around and stay standing as we turn to page, we are on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. Lai, lai, la, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 la, lai, lai, yai, lai, la, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, ya, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 la, lai, lai, yai, lai, ya, lai, 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai, Hamivorach, Hamivorach, Baruch Adonai, Hamivorach, Leolam, Leolam va'ed. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due, now and forever. Yai, lai, la, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 la, lai, lai, yai, lai, ya, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, la, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 la, lai, 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 lai. We read together on page 30. We're going to do just the first many lines, and then we're going to revert to the musical piece that we've been doing last couple of Shabbats. If you don't know it, you'll catch on quick. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chochma poteach she'arim uvitvuna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Okay, so then the lines that come next are about God rolling light away from darkness and darkness away from light, as if there is this beautiful dance of unfolding as time passes with the astronomical creations that surround us. And so I want to acknowledge the light and the darkness, so there's movements that go with this if you're interested in putting your whole body into it. Please join with me. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom u'mevi laila umavdil ben yom uvein laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamidim l'chaleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Together on page 32. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu v'kumeinu, nasiach bechukecha. V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla Yomam v'layla. Ve'avatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. I'd like to invite up Lisa Scarce, who's going to lead us in the Shema. And we're going to begin with the words you can find on page 373, and then the Shema itself is on page 34.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Ba'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha Vishinantam levanecha vidibarta bam b'shivtecha beveitecha uvelachtecha vaderech uveshachbecha uvekumecha ukshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha Uktavtam al mizuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Eloechem Asher hotzeit etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. We read together on page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 40, we continue with Mi Chamocha.
מלכותך רוב עניך, בוכי הים לפני משה ומרים, ואלי זה אלי ינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Elai, lai, 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 elai, lai, 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 elai, lai, 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 elai, lai, 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 elai, lai, 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 elai, lai, lai, lai.
Together on 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukkot shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44.
השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Prayer is hard. It is something that we're more likely to do well if we try to do it often, if it becomes a routine. But there are many days when we feel like we're just uttering words, when we're distracted, when it's hard to find the burning core within the heart that brings us to those prayerful moments. I was always very moved by the opening to the Amidah, which can be found on page 46, because the rabbis teach that before praying, we're supposed to pray to be able to pray. that there's this idea that even engaging in prayer requires something a little extra, perhaps something from outside oneself, in order to be fully lived out, fully true. We ask God to open our lips so that we can praise God's name and glory. We don't just open our lips, we ask for the strength to do so. I want to invite you quietly for a moment to reflect on the readings that interpret this introduction that are on page 47. And when you've meditated on a few of those, I invite you to rise. Please stand when you're ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Imahot Umeviyu Lalifnei Bneihem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Magin Baruch Atah Adonai Magin Abraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rab Lehoshia Mashib HaRuach Umari HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Baal Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Menit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Atah Hakayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kadoshim B'Kol Yom Yihallelucha Selah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. Together on page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Together on 57. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. One of the prayers of the Amidah, as many of you know, is the Hoda'ah, a prayer of thanksgiving, of gratitude. And so it's our custom in these last many months that when we gather on Shabbat evening here at KI, we take a moment to each of us think about what it is that we are grateful for. Maybe there's something you remember from this week. Maybe there's something coming up in the next week, or something from long ago. Maybe something that is continual, for which you are grateful. And maybe you're always feeling the gratitude and acknowledging that and feeling that and saying that out loud or to yourself. Or maybe you forgot, because we do that sometimes. We take things for granted because that is the way of humanity. So tonight I want to invite you to bring to mind something for which you are grateful. And I'm going to invite you in a moment, if you'd like, to share aloud briefly the thing that you're grateful for. I'm going to repeat it so the folks at home can hear. And then we'll all say together the first three words in the prayer, the Hoda'ah prayer, Modim anachnu lach, which means we give you thanks. Nora. Brothers. Nora is grateful for brothers. Modim anachnu lach. Serena. Serena's thankful for her mom. Modim anachnu lach.
I'm laughing because I was going to say the same thing, that I am so grateful that my daughter Serena is here with us this week to visit and to be here at services.
Jet is grateful that her daughter Serena is here this week to visit and to be at services. Modim anachnu lach. Barbara. So Barbara is grateful for her husband Art's patience with all the struggles that they've had this year. It's only January 5th. Did you mean this year? Modim anachnu lach. Yeah, Linda.
I'm grateful to be sitting next to Nora, who I've known since she's been 5 or 6, and it's been a joy to connect with her Jewishly and watch her be our future.
Linda's grateful to be sitting next to the amazing Nora. That's the shortened version. Modim anachnu lach. Marty.
I'm grateful for Nancy and Rachel and all those who organized Family Promise, which was a great experience for those of us who volunteered, and also I think was really helpful for the people who participated.
So Marty is grateful for Rachel and Nancy's work on Family Promise and for all the volunteers and the success of that program. Modim anachnu lach. I'm grateful that my son Elijah got to spend the last couple of days with us. I don't get to spend time in person with him that often, and it was really nice to have that opportunity to connect. Modim anachnu lach. Yes. Because what? Oh, so Rob is grateful for the snow coming this weekend because he's going skiing this weekend, or Monday, he said, with his grandson. Modim anachnu lach. Yeah. And Norm Sarachek is thankful for hospice. Modim anachnu lach. So if you didn't say something aloud, that's okay. But I still want to invite you to engage in this practice of holding in your mind and your heart something that you want to say thank you for. As we say together, Modim anachnu lach. We pray silently. Shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru I spoke at the beginning of our service about the burdens and the cares that we bring to Shabbat, that we try to feel sloughing off of our shoulders. But we know that the suffering in the world, the pain and the conflict that we try to breathe from on Shabbat remains. And so we continue to pray for peace. Peace in the Middle East, peace in Israel, peace in Palestine. And we join together in sharing this prayer by Rabbi Karen Kadar, called simply, Peace, Please. We gather together in faith and with hope to pray for peace and for the safety of the people of Israel and innocent victims among the Palestinian people. Help us, O Holy One, and protect us in our hour of need. Touch our hearts, lest they be hardened with despair. Guide our thoughts, lest they be overcome with fear. Bring healing to the wounded, strength to those in mourning, courage to those in fear, wisdom to those who lead. Yedid Nefesh, beloved one, reveal yourself and fill the world with your light. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Be quick, God of love, for the time has come. Have mercy upon us, eternal one of peace. The choir will lead us now in Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, which is not in your handout. But many of the words can be found on page 259 in a slightly different order. We also join together in a prayer for peace, not just overseas, not just in our people's homeland, not just in our community at large, but within the hearts and minds and souls and bodies of those near and dear to us, and those in the widening circles of connection that we share with all the human family. With hope for healing in our hearts, we think of Mac Beeson, Gershona Binyamina Bat Sarah Valevi, Barry Cohen, Robbie Cohen, Chaya Shena Dinka Bat Esther Bashav Yosef, Ellery Einstein, David Eiskowitz, Rivka Elka Bat Root, Marianne Gardosky, Francis Gentlecore, Don Goldman, Rachel Goldstein, Jamie Gordon Rodriguez, Mikhail Gordon, Harav Rachel Bat Fruma, Emily Hochstedler, Nick Jelinski, Diane Levine, Wilburn Nichols, Phyllis Orsoff, Felice Price, Shaoli Rosenberg, Dr. Norm Sarachek, Michael Scarce, Susan Scarce, Peggy Statner, Ethel Zager, Ziv, Marcy Zolkos, and Robert Alexander. I invite you to add any names to this list, the names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing tonight. Our hands, our hearts, and our prayers join together to bring healing to our community, our friends and family, and our world. We join together in Misha Berach. Thank you, Lissa.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor Habracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lehavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May the Holy One of Blessing bring refuah shlema to us, our loved ones, and our whole hurting world, as together we say, Amen. So you probably noticed that I've decided to come up to this pulpit, which is pretty much close to the first time I've done that. I'm doing that because we're having trouble with the sound, and I know that these microphones usually work pretty well. If you're at home and they're not working well, we need to know that. But I am going to come down for my remarks, so I'm hoping that we're connected at this moment. We're in a very lucky moment, an auspicious moment in our Torah reading cycle. Anyone who was at Torah study last week knows that last week we did something very special. What did we do? We finished the book of Genesis. Yay. Now, starting with when we finish the book of Exodus, this is just a public service announcement. When we finish the book of Exodus, we're going to have a little potluck brunch after Torah study. So it'll be a special Torah study to come to, and the same with the end of the other books. So I'll give you the dates, but that's coming. This week, we are beginning the book of, what do you think? Exodus. Thank you, Nora. Thank you for all those who helped Nora. No, that's okay. She liked the help. It was all right. So in the book of Exodus, we're making a transition from a discussion or an exploration of the life of a family, right? We have the family that begins with Abraham and Sarah, and that ends with Joseph and Joseph's brothers, and Jacob and all of their family going down to Egypt and settling in the land of Goshen. And as we move into Exodus, we start to we have a different kind of story. It's a story of how Israel becomes one nation. So instead of being about a family, It's about the nation that comes from that family. And there's a lot that happens in this Torah portion. It's really a big chunk of the beginning of the story of Exodus that we tell at Passover. And there are a lot of really engaging parts to it. Sometimes when we're in the book of Leviticus, I wish we could borrow a little from this particular parsha because there's too many things to go over all at once. But tonight I want to talk about two particular figures who are less well known in the Torah, who show up in this week's Torah portion. But before I mention them by name, I want to ask you to think about something that you really devote your heart to. Maybe it's your marriage, or parenting, or teaching, or economics, or something that makes you passionate and for which you've kind of structured your heart and even your moral code to line up with it. I'm thinking about like doctors, right? Doctors have a certain moral code that it's not like the rest of us have no idea what that could be about, but it's really, it's ingrained in you in the medical profession. There are certain oaths and certain standards that are really like almost by the time you're a doctor, they've gotten to the cellular level. And a lot of us are lucky enough to have something in our lives that we feel that attached to, something we hold central to who we are, and that almost overrides other concerns. So there are things that you could encounter that you would sacrifice in order to preserve the thing that's close to you. So Shifra and Pua had a very sacred profession. They show up in this week's Torah portion, and what do Shifra and Pua do for a living? Two women who do a certain job for a living, which we don't get a lot of stories of women, especially by name. Barbara? They were midwives. Okay, so I want you to think about what it means to be a midwife, like what you might be committed to, what your whole thing would be about. It was always so moving to me, but also not surprising, that the midwives are told by Pharaoh to kill the baby boys, the Jewish baby boys, as soon as they're born. And they, what do? Anyone? Do they do it? In any event, they can't, even though Pharaoh is as powerful as Pharaoh is, they cannot follow this command. And it makes me think of all those times when in the history of humanity, we've had people making difficult choices because they knew what it would mean to stand up for what they knew in their heart. It's really hard to engage in civil disobedience, which is what you could say Shifra and Pua were doing. But even more so, it's hard to stand up to any kind of pressure from around you that is saying something different than what you know in your heart. And each of us has this challenge. What is it? I was discussing this with our rabbinic intern, Alex Milanich, today. And Alex pointed out something interesting. So I was reading the Parsha, and I noticed something I hadn't noticed before, which was that Pharaoh, there's this moment before God tells Moses, I've heard the cry of the Israelites, and they're suffering, and I want you to go down there. So right before that, there's a line that says, and Pharaoh died. So there's a new Pharaoh. And that new Pharaoh gets to decide, where does his moral core lie? And he decides to go in a direction of the continuity of slavery. But just like the midwives, he faced a chance to do something different, something that would oppose the pressures around him of how most everybody else thought, of how most everybody else acted. So I want to ask you to think about, what are you holding in your heart that you know to be true? What would you give up to hold that sacred? What would you risk because you know the importance of that thing you hold in your heart? I'm really inspired this Shabbat by this idea. Our attention is drawn in many directions, and there's lots of points of view surrounding us, coming at us, vying for our attention and vying for our hearts and vying for our energy and our money and our words. But perhaps this Shabbat, we can channel Shifra and Pua and try to feel deeply and strongly, where does our heart stand? What is it that you are called to do and say and be in this complicated world? Now, a lot of times a rabbi will get up and will say something like, and everybody should. I can't do that, right? Because this is a different answer for every person. But it's part of how we stay true, not just to ourselves, but to what it means to be a Jew. Because we can read the Torah, and there's lots of different interpretations, and we can look at the rabbinic writings. But very often God speaks to us through the still small voice within us. And it's very, very important to me, and I know I'm sort of preaching to the choir, that Jews know that voice inside them is part of them being Jewish. That there's an authenticity to what is in your heart, and it's not separate from what it means to be part of this people. Every person has that spark in them. It's a divine spark. May we each honor it, recognize it, cradle it, and acknowledge its holiness. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue with some announcements. It's my pleasure to call forward Linda Pollock to share some announcements and greetings.
Good evening, everyone. Shabbat Shalom and Happy New Year. My name is Linda Pollock, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to thank you for joining us in the sanctuary and online tonight. Thank you, first of all, to everyone who participated in our service tonight. Lynn, Mark, Marty, and Jet in the near future. Our wonderful choir, Lissa, always so beautiful. Karen for leading us. Kelly, our Oneg Maven, and of course, Rabbi Shoshana for always being uplifting and inspirational. Thank you. Join us tomorrow morning for Torah study. We begin at 8:30 in the multi-purpose room.
No.
Oh, 9:30. Maybe I needed glasses adjustments. Thank you. 9:30 in the multi-purpose room. Please enter through the 23rd Street doors. There are lots of educational, spiritual, and fun things coming in the new year, including a weekday learning opportunity with Rabbi Tornberg. Learn, listen, learn will begin on Thursday, January 11th at 10:30 in the morning and repeat on most Thursdays. The first topic will be how to stand for Jewish values for Israel and for Jews. Sign-ups are underway for Shabbat Out of the Box on January 13th, Sing for Your Supper. Our very own musicians, Donna Fisher and Alan Salinger, along with Jan Herzog, have been working very hard to make it a wonderful evening of music and song. There will also be Havdalah and a potluck dinner. Go to our website, KILV.org, for more information and to RSVP. On January 19th, our Shabbat service will include the fall adult Hebrew class reading Torah. Come, show support for their hard work. And on January 21st, Women of KI will be hosting a soup swap and cooking demo with Chef Eric. So come learn the simmering secrets of great soup making. Register through Let's Stay Connected or the website. And lastly, save the date alert. The weekend of March 15th through the 17th will be our Scholar in Residence weekend with Professor Lewis Gordon, a world-renowned philosopher and Jewish studies professor. Come explore what it means to be Jewish in the 21st century. At the conclusion of tonight's service, please join us for our Oneg in the multipurpose room. Stay for a while, catch up with friends, introduce yourself to someone you may not know, and help create the sense of community that is KI. Thanks, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Linda. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue our service with Aleinu, and it's my pleasure to call forward Marty Katz and Jet Ulaner Sarachek to open the Ark as we rise on page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, latet gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד Ushamo, Ushamo, Ushamo Echad. Thanks, Marty. Thank you. You may be seated. Temple by Jennifer Rudick Zunikoff. May the day arrive when every life is a treasure, when every death is a devastation. That is the day that the burial of any one child in any one land will bring forth the great cry, an anguish so complete that the following day, everyone who has ever created a weapon will now build an instrument. This is the day the Levites will play, the day each child will be a celebration, the day the world will be the temple. Our thoughts turn to those who've departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We also call to mind the 6 million of our martyred brethren who perished in the Shoah, and all those who gave their lives in defense of Jewish ideals here in the United States, in Israel, and around the globe. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing. In a moment, I'm going to read the names of those whose yahrzeits and whose yahrzeits occur this week and whose families are observing Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning. If I read aloud the name of someone for whom you are saying Kaddish, we invite you to rise when their name is read and remain standing, if you're comfortable doing so, so that we might acknowledge your loss and offer you our support. We remember Joseph Bergstein, Eugene Denitz, Bobby Hamill, Phyllis Krasnow, and we link their names to the names of those whose yahrzeits occur this week. Rose Oronsky, Mary Brown, Isaac Feltengoff, Robert Friedman, Stephen Glascombe, Dora Gordon, Jack Greenblatt, Jeff Hertz, Elaine Holskin, Bertha Judas, Jeanette Judas, Rosalind Kaltman, Barry Kansigor, Becky Kramer, Eugene LeSavoy, Irving Levitt, Carol Lutsky, Dorothy Parmet, Rose Perlstein, Maurice Perlis, Sylvia Refowich, Richard Roberts, Mo Sarachek, Pearl Champagne, Ruth Silverman, Shirley Smith, Harry Spicer, Bina Steuerman, Richard Ulaner, Hannah Ullman, and Fanny Weinstock. I invite you to add any names to this list, the names of anyone for whom you're saying Kaddish tonight. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We rise as one congregation and join together in the words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah, Bialma Divrach Chirutei V'Amlich Malchutei, B'chaye Echon Uvyom Echon Uv'chaye D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Ulalmei Maya, Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitpa'ar V'Yitromam V'Yitnaseh, V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shemed Kudusha Brichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya V'Chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel and all the world, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Our closing song this evening is Ein Kelohenu. It can be found on page 322. Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, Noi Kelohenu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkenu, Mi Kemoshienu, Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, En Kelohenu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkeinu, En Kemoshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, En Kelohenu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkeinu, En Kemoshienu, Nar. Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, En Kelohenu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkeinu, En Kemoshienu. We rise for our closing benediction. O Holy One, you are with us in our prayer, but you are also with us in our love and in our doubt, in our longing. You are the still, clear voice within us. When anxiety makes us tremble and doubt clouds the mind, we look inside for the answer to our prayers, and there is where we find you. May we take that spark of you within the heart and carry it forward to light this new year. Shabbat Shalom.